So I just wanted to be really clear from the offset that, you know, what I say is not necessarily gospel, but it's my gospel, if you like. I trained at Mount View Academy of Theatre Arts in London, and when I finished there, I was a little bit disillusioned with what the industry was going to present itself to me as, and I, with no regret of saying this and no embarrassment, I genuinely thought I was going to step out of drama school and walk straight into loads of work and have agents banging at my door. And that is the truth. I genuinely believed that. And I was very quickly met with no agent, no job, living in London, and having to make options to move out of London because I had nothing. I had no money, I had nothing. So I did a lot of traveling. I was very lucky as well, I must point out. A very good friend of Jamie Bell, who, as some of you will know, was the lead in Billy Elliot. He is Tintin. He was in King Kong. He's done a lot of wonderful Hollywood movies. And he's a good friend of mine. And I was very lucky to have traveled the world with him and to have seen behind the scenes of BAFTA events, red carpet events. I toured Europe with him for the Tintin tour. I think we did 21 premieres in about 6 days. And through that experience alone, I got to see one side of the industry, which, if I'm honest, I think was partly why I was so disillusioned and why I genuinely believed that maybe that could have been me too. And it can be. That's the gamble we take. I would say that I was met with a lot of obstacles. My dad tried to commit suicide in my last year of drama school, and I had the option to either walk out onto the stage and finish my final show or jump on a train and go home. And I stayed on and I finished the show and I did what I had to do. And I'm sort of baffled, I'm sort of babbling, but I just want to give you like a picture that I'm in a position now where I'm giving you advice, but there was once a time when I really didn't have it all together. And even now I do question whether I have got it all together. But so I then came back up north and got a couple of acting gigs here and there, nothing really to rave about. I finally found an agent. I thought she was the most wonderful agent on the planet, but that relationship turned sour through lack of communication on her behalf. And I always say that if you find an agent, you've got to find an agent that you can communicate with, that you should really be able to pick up the phone and go, "Hi Denise, how's it going?" Or "Hi Daniel." Obviously there's a limit. You can't pester your agent, of course. They're doing everything that they can. But I then very quickly found out that she wasn't the right agent for me. And you might find that as well when you get your first agent. It's all wonderful and it's all exciting, but there's a likelihood that you might change. Just make sure you do it amicably, because everybody in this industry knows everybody in this industry, as you've probably already worked out for yourself. There's always a link somewhere. It can always be traced back somewhere. And cut a long story short, because I am waffling now, I decided to come back up north, having spent a little bit of time in Manchester, working with the actors from like Coronation Street and Shameless and Hollyoaks. And whilst it was really exciting and I was incredibly honoured to be part of the team and to be working with that calibre of actor in television, there was just something wasn't quite hitting the spot for me. So I came back to Teesside, which is where I am now, fell in love, had a daughter, and here I am. I'm now an agent and I run my own acting school. It's only part-time, nothing quite like Fourth Monkey. We do a diploma, but it's just an in-house diploma, so it's not accredited by a governing body. Well, it's being quality assured by a governing body, but you don't get an accreditation as such. And I stopped seeking acting work about 4 or 5 years ago. I stopped actively putting myself on the line. and I've never stopped working since, which is really annoying. But I genuinely just gave up. I gave up wanting to pursue an acting career, partly because it was draining all of my energy, all of my money, all of my resources. But I also had a little girl, like I mentioned earlier, so I had to just steer my way slightly to one side. I couldn't work in a shop. I'd find that really hard. I've done all the working in pubs and restaurants and ice skating rinks, and I've done it all just to keep the money in the bank. So I set up in Teesside, and for anybody that hasn't been to Teesside, it's not the most obvious place to set something like this up, and I knew that going in. But it seems to have done really well. We've now opened up our second school in Newcastle, and we're about to open up our third school in Leeds, hopefully later on this year, beginning of next year. And I started with £50 in the bank. I just want to make that, just want to throw that out there, that when you feel like you have nothing, you have to invest something. And nothing just means no thing. If you split the word in two, it's just not a thing. So you have to create something from no thing. And I'm here today with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And trust me, I've made many, many mistakes. But it's not about the mistakes. It's more about how you rectify those mistakes that makes you a respectable human being. And so I feel like that's how we've become successful in the Northeast, is purely just by correcting our mistakes as and when they arise. Guys, I don't know whether any of that was remotely interesting, but I want to try and give you, a real insight into who I am, but I might have just went all the way around the globe to just to get back to this point. So forgive me if I did. Top tips for me is, and you've probably heard this before, so sorry if I'm repeating what you've already heard. There's a reason why they call it the long race. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Like, I know people must have said that 1 billion times, and the amount of rejection for me is part of the job. And if you can just adopt that as part of, oh yeah, rejection is what it's all about. And this just to sort of ride on the back of that, if you make rejection your like number one, this is fine, like a default button almost, you'll sail through it, because you'll just go, yep, next. It's when you start to carry that with you, and it becomes like a monkey wrapped around your back. Sorry to use monkey as a reference. But the other thing is, when you go for an audition, this is how I always tell my students and my clients, and some of my clients are trained and some of them aren't, but I'll probably jump onto that later. When you go for an audition, look at the audition as the job. You're just not being paid for that day's work, or for that minute's work, or 5 minutes, however long you get it with the casting director. So you go there completely and utterly prepared, ready to give everything, in the hope that they'll pay you later and ask you to come back and do the same again. When you get rid of the notion of it's an audition, when you get rid of that, suddenly you're going to work, but it's just for free. And what a beautiful way to start a day. It's like, oh, I'm going to go do the thing I love today, and then I've got to go and do a shift pulling pints or serving pizza or whatever it is that we have to do to make ends meet. So when you get rid of the audition cap and you go, I'm going to work, not only does it get rid of a lot of that negative anxiety and those negative nerves, because it's always good to have positive nerves, of course, but the negative nerves vanish. And actually, you start to enjoy the auditions because you go, it's work. So there's two little tiny bits of advice. Just before I move on to the bigger tip, if you like, is do not graduate thinking that you have failed if you have not been able to get representation. I can't tell you. I mean, it was very, very political. I don't know. I'm hoping it's not where you guys are, but when I was at drama school, it was so political that it was like, I've got an agent, I've got a meeting with this casting director, and I've got this, and I've got that, and I'm doing this. And it just got to a point where I was actually like a really, you probably can't tell, couldn't stop talking. I was very loud. I was, center of attention type actor, always wanting to be the life and soul of every single party. And I didn't get an agent straight away. And I just felt myself like a balloon and then the amount of people I stayed in touch with after drama school, and again, I hope you all stay in touch and that you continue to have wonderful relationships. I think I speak to two people out of a course of 30. And I'm telling you now, out of the 30 that were there, I think 5 of us are working. And this is why I call it the long haul. This is why the long race is so important, because so many drop out. If there's only 5 of us, you do the math. There's 25 people that were doing way better than I was. They got an agent, they got a job. One of them landed a job on television. I won't say who it is and what it was. And they're not working. And they haven't got an agent. And suddenly, here I am giving advice to incredible students at Fourth Monkey. And you've just got to not put yourself in competition with anybody but yourself. And I think when you start to look at other actors doing incredibly well, you can aspire to that level and you go, oh, do you know what? My friend has just landed a job on X, Y, and Z. And suddenly you start to compare yourself with other people. But actually, you're only in the race with yourself. They're my like immediate tips. In regards to coronavirus, just because you asked about post-COVID, it's terrifying. Nearly every single casting director that I've spoken to, all the other agents that I speak to, we really are stepping into the unknown. And at the risk of quoting Frozen 2, we really are genuinely stepping into uncharted waters. But I don't see that as a problem. I see that as a positive challenge. And we, as creatives, need to be able to adapt to these incredibly difficult times. And it's those that can adapt and evolve. It's those that can keep creating in the face of adversity. You are the people that will succeed. I guarantee you that. It's all what you do next. And we don't know what is next. We're still working it out. Government guidelines are still incredibly unclear. In regards to contracts, every contract that we got sent pre-COVID-19 are now void. They have to be re-edited. Our contracts for our students and our clients, I've been editing them yesterday, in fact, because health and safety is totally changed. And so we're all still learning. So just be ready for whatever you thought was the norm is now no longer. And we don't know how long it's going to be before it ever returns back to normal. And that sounds a bit, I might have ended on a slight negative, but I think you've got to look at it as a positive. And only you know how much fight you've got in you. And forget what everybody else is doing. Everybody, even the people you love, just forget about them. And that sounds really harsh because you've got to work as an ensemble and you've got to, support one another. But when you start to let it feed into your successes, big problem, huge problem, in fact. I told you I could waffle. I think 5 years ago, this August, when we first started, it would have been very different. I'd have said to you, what I'm doing is crazy. And actually, I don't think it's actually going to work. It was only because I have really good contacts in the industry through the agency, from the connections that I made as an actor, that I was able to just go, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. And they were like, oh, great. Yeah, nice to see that you're running an agency. And then suddenly they started getting me and my actors into auditions. However, I'm also a part of a steering group for Tees Valley Screen, which is funded by Northern Film and Media. And the North is now getting a ton of attention. So just recently, I produced for Channel 4 a comedy short. I could see the potential for a demographic of audience. So I was like, okay, I'm quite happy to produce this on the basis that it gives me one more door open, if you like, with Channel 4. And so because I knew that there were certain people on board, I was like, I'll definitely do this. I got paid next to nothing. I started to go grey within 3 or 4 days because it was such a crazy and ambitious shoot. But with Channel 4 coming up to Leeds, it's up to us to prove to them that we're worth more money and that we're worth continued support. And if we fall and fail at the first hurdle, they can withdraw because they'll say, well, the evidence suggests we can't continue to give you funding. We've all sort of come together and we're all now supporting each other and we're working for free on projects because we know that actually the long game is that we'll be producing for Channel 4 again, possibly BBC. And so we are in a very, very robust position now, but we do now that real hard work starts. And having an agency right in the middle of this has been perfect timing. I don't know whether you all know this, but there are 84,000 registered actors in the UK. 84,000 registered actors in the UK. Now, I guarantee you that number is doubled, if not trebled, when you meet Joe Bloggs down the road who does amateur dramatics, but he puts on his Twitter account, Joe Bloggs, actor. There are millions of us who are all actors. I painted my little girl's Wendy house outside a couple of weeks ago when it was nice weather. I'm not a painter and decorator. And when I cook a meal for my partner, I'm not a chef. And so you guys are at a real advantage because you will be part of that 84,000 registered. And this is like sort of, that was 2019, so it might have changed this year. What was my point? I had a point. What was my point? Oh, no, hang on. Yes. So my point was, was that I can produce. My collective creative team are some phenomenal DOPs, crew members, directors, you name it, but we just can't prove it. So it's all good putting next to my name on Twitter, producer, but Channel 4 look at me and they go, great, what have you produced? Well, and then you have to try and explain it to them, by which point they've turned off because they're too busy. They're just like, no, we want people who've got like a CV as long as their arm because it's valuable money. But to answer the question, I think, Steve, if I may, do I think that Teesside has the opportunity to make this work? Yes, but I do think we need to give it a bloody good shot. And that's what we are all trying to do, is we are pulling everything out and we're working, like I say, all hours for nothing, just to see whether we can, because the reward later will be much better, much bigger. You know, obviously we're at an advantage if they're looking for northern or regional. So I've done a little bit of mocap as from a practitioner's point of view. So I was employed to work with, he's called John Dower, very, very good friend of mine. He directs a lot of EastEnders as well, but he specialises in motion capture. So I know about motion capture only because of him. Do I see lots of breakdowns? Not really, if I'm honest. The casting directors that I deal with on a weekly basis, they already know. If they're coming to us, they already know that we're based in the north. They already know that we have an abundance of northeast talent. And so when they phone or they email, they sort of know what they're going to get. And then obviously you've got Spotlight, where when I'm submitting an actor for a job that's come through on Spotlight, I have to put Teesside, Newcastle, Leeds, just so that there's no, well, why didn't you tell me when you submitted her, instead of wasting our time? I had a conversation with one of my actors the other day who was self-taping for a very big casting director. And she said, oh, I'm thinking about doing a Scottish accent. And I was like, Why? I have no idea why you would choose to do an accent that isn't your own. Because if they want someone from Scotland, they will probably cast a Scottish actor. Now, when you start getting into like Hollywood and, you know, all the big time players, of course, they can put on an accent and fulfill that role and they'll get bums on seats. But when we're just starting out and when we're like day players, for example, when you just go on a set for a day or two, you know, they're going to want you with your normal accent. And I think the industry is becoming, certainly in the last couple of years, much more open-minded about having a regional actor in the middle of a scene because, hey, we can move to London too. So somebody with my accent can actually live in London, you know, and work in an office. So I don't know whether you guys have seen, I've been tweeting and Instagramming all day. I've just finished working on a BBC drama as an actor. It's called Make Me Famous. It's on iPlayer, so please watch it if you haven't already. If you haven't got iPlayer, it's out on the 25th of June, 9 p.m. BBC One. And Peter King, the director, cast the entire thing. It's got Tom Brittney, who's just finished working with Tom Hanks. He's in Grantchester, for any of you that are watching Grantchester. Tilly Keeper, Emma Rigby, Amanda Abington. It's filled with amazing talent. And then he phones me up and he's like, hey, Dan, I've got this job for you. Are you interested? And I was like, yeah, what is it? And it's just one scene, just one little tiny scene. I think it's like a minute and a half. It's written by Reggie Yates, for those of you that know Reggie Yates. And I was like, yeah, like, what are you looking for? And he went, you. I was like, I know, but like what, you know, what? He was like, no, it doesn't matter what the character is. Even if the character was a bin man, if the character, it doesn't matter. I just want you to be you, your accent, your energy, your attitude, your charisma. That's all I want. I said, send me the script, let me have a look. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know, like proper London. And then you've just got right bang in the middle, a broad northeast accent. And I've got to take my hat off. It's Aisha Bywaters who cast it. As an agency based in Teesside, it would only be problematic if we didn't have contacts outside of Teesside, but we do. But again, that doesn't necessarily give us like a free pass, and it certainly doesn't give us, I get through the back door. That doesn't happen either. You still got to be right for the job, but they very rarely have to travel to London now. Very, very, very rare. And now with COVID, I just think everything is going to be Zoom. Absolutely everything. If they're looking for someone with a potential accent or character, then immediately you're ruled out over somebody else anyway, because you're not what they're looking for. However, and this is, I've got to be really careful because this isn't necessarily something that I champion, but in the background I secretly love it. If they are looking for, and when we say they, I'm talking quite specifically about like casting directors and producers, I think. From an agent's perspective, it depends who your agent is as to whether they are on the same level of thinking as to what I'm about to say. So if you were my client and they were looking for a Danish actor, then obviously you're straight in. If they're looking for somebody with a neutral accent, I might ask you, can you do a neutral accent? Just a really plain RP accent. If there was ever an accent to learn, that would be the one. So sometimes I get asked to just dilute my accent, but they still want a northern accent. They don't want me to change it. They just want me to be less broad. And so for me, I feel you need to find an agent that is willing to be a bit cheeky. And this is where if I knew the casting director, I'd be really cheeky and be like, hey, it might say on Spotlight, we are looking for blonde, blue-eyed, 25-year-old female. And I go, I've got a 35-year-old that fits the description. And she does look a bit younger. and she's really good, you know. And so I just sort of twist the rule a little. But that some agents are they're quite pedantic with it. They're quite like, well, no, you're not 25, so I'm not putting you forward. Whereas I like to think that actually we didn't get to where we are as actors without a little hustle, and you've got to have a little hustle. I'm not saying that you lie, and I'm not saying that you deliberately go out of your way to manipulate the situation, because you might get to the casting and they're like, whoa, hang on, who the hell are you? What are you doing here? And then your agent will get a bad name, as will you. But I just feel like do not worry about having the international accent. If anything, use it to your absolute advantage, and maybe try and learn a little RP. And it doesn't even matter what my accent is in that instant, because who cares? As long as I'm portraying the character correctly, I could be called Dumbo, I could be called Peter Pan, it doesn't matter. I think as long as you are able to correctly identify with the character that they are looking for, the job's yours. And some casting directors love wild cards. And I often put in brackets, little wild card for you, just so they go, oh, maybe this would work. Because maybe the producer is wrong. Maybe they don't need a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, whatever. Maybe they need a red-haired fat girl with glasses. I don't know. Like, who? Send them a wild card. I would. I do all of the time. And so don't be afraid to break down just because they think they're looking for something. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're right. I want to point out at this stage as well, I think as well, I am talking very much from a television and film perspective. Maybe I should have mentioned that from the very beginning. And I apologise if I've led you down a bit of a crazy path. With theatre, things are a little bit different, because when we go into a theatre, we know we're in a theatre. We already know that. So we know that whatever is going to be presented to us, we have to just suspend belief a little and join the actors on the journey. And so you can play, and hands up, who's ever played a character age 50 plus? Because I have, with when I was at Mount View. But then when you get out into the world of the real world in the industry, if they want a 50-year-old man, they'll hire a 50-year-old man. It's as simple as that. So I just want to make clear that when I'm talking about like accents and stuff, it's pretty much really only for television and film. With theatre, you have much more flexibility to play a contrast of characters. So if anyone was making notes, I should really have mentioned that a little earlier. What else could you be doing? Well, that's a really good thing to ask, because there's two answers to this. You could do loads and loads and loads and loads to prepare, or you could do absolutely nothing and allow yourself to have a break. It's okay to have a break too. And what I'm finding is I haven't stopped. It's as though lockdown hasn't even happened as far as I'm concerned. The only thing that's changed is I can't go to the shop as freely as I used to, and my little girl is now homeschooled. That's pretty much it. That's it. So my first answer is learn to be in your own space and do nothing, and be okay with that, because some days you are going to need that. On the other hand, research the type of people that you would love to work with. So you might watch Make Me Famous today, and you might go, who was the casting director, or who was the director? Follow them on Twitter, follow them on, find out who their agent is, find out whether there's any castings going on. Literally, because I'm talking to you from the point of view of me being back in third year at Mount View. I honestly believed I was going to work non-stop. And that wasn't arrogance of like, I'm the best actor in the world. Far from it. I actually don't rate myself as an actor. I actually think I'm a way better practitioner and a way better agent and producer than I am an actor. That's my honest belief. So it's like going and playing a game of bowls with your friends or a game of snooker. I just do acting instead, because I don't like any form of sport. But my point is that, like, through this lockdown, I've just made use of clearing this a little and being realistic with, I was like 3 days ago, maybe a bit longer, 5 maximum, I was this close to setting up a production company. And I'd been talking about it for months. I'm definitely going to do it. I'm definitely going to do it. And then 5 days ago, I turned around and went, no, I'm not going to do that. And the reason for that is because I'm wearing too many bow ties. And I can produce. I know I can. I can run an agency successfully. I'm doing it. I'm not really that interested in becoming a production company. Do I want to produce? Yeah, I'd love to. Would I like to produce theatre? Yeah, I'd love to do that. And I think what I did over this break is I did a lot of like me thinking. I became incredibly, for the first time in 4 years, since my daughter was born, it's all been about her. So I've become quite self-indulgent over the last 12, 13 weeks. And I've started to ask real questions. What do I want? Because you can get sidetracked with, well, I want to be an actor. Okay. In Panto? Do you want to do Panto? Well, no, I'm not really interested in Panto. Right, okay, narrow it down. Let's get right down to what do you want? So when we take a client on, the first thing I ask is like, what sort of work are you interested in? And they go, anything. Well, not anything. There's a famous saying, isn't there? Be careful what you wish for. You could pray every night before you go to bed. Dear God, please give me some acting work. I need an acting job tomorrow. Please, God, answer my prayers. You get an email. Bing. Your agent says, I've just found you a job. It's a 6-month tour for free. You don't get paid. That's not really what I was looking for. Yeah, but you said you wanted to do anything. So for me, I think spend this time really working out. There's calling yourself an actor and you're trained and you're super talented. What do you really want? And that's what I would be working on. Because what is the point in going away and working on yourself, thinking I'm going to do anything? And then when it comes down to it, you go, I've just wasted 12, 13 weeks of lockdown working on something that I'm never going to use. I'll give you another example. Sorry to waffle. I'm a big lad. I'm overweight. And I have been for as long as I can remember. And every other week, I'm going to go on a diet and I'm going to start jogging. And I still haven't done it. Do you know why? Because I'm a fat lad. I'm a big lad. And yes, I could probably get trimmer. And yes, I could probably get a bit fitter because running up and down the stairs can make me a bit sweaty and out of breath. But I'm never, ever going to get a job as a character that needs to do a lot of running because that's just not my casting. So I'd only be doing that for me, for my personal business, but from an acting perspective, complete waste of exercise. But it's also really good to change things up. It's really good to listening to different types of music that you would never normally listen to. Start watching films that normally you'd go, oh God, no, sci-fi, hate it. Watch it. Watch 2. Think about how you present yourself to people, how you present yourself to yourself. What are you saying to yourself every morning? Are you saying, I can't do this? I can't get out of bed. This is too hard. I hate the world today. Become super selfish, because once you get in that audition room with your best mate who you adore, it's between you and your best mate. And I know that's harsh, but this is a business. You're getting into a business. And I think a lot of actors are like, oh, I'm creative and I'm an artiste. And it's like, yeah, and I respect and I love all of that. But an agent just wants you to make money. Otherwise, I'm working for free too. And I send like 300-400 emails a day because my actor is an artiste who, I want to be an actor. It's like, well, I want to be a millionaire, but let's narrow it down. How do we get there? What steps do we need to take in order to get there? I would love to have more diversity, equality, and inclusivity in my clients. The problem that I've been faced with is they haven't came to me for representation. So because people have said to me in the past, like, you don't have any black actors on your agency. And I'm like, I know. That's not for want of me not wanting to represent black actors. I want more diversity within our company. However, if we were approached by somebody with a disability or a minority where they feel underrepresented at the best of times, let alone in a crazy industry like acting, because I had an interview with an actor with cerebral palsy, and it was an incredible interview, a meeting. I don't want to call it an interview. It was just a lovely meeting, and his parents were there, and they were sort of puppeting him because when he was trying to communicate with me, it was obviously incredibly difficult for him to get across what he wanted to get across quickly. And so the meeting went on for a lot longer than I'd first anticipated, which is fine. But one of the things that I made very clear to him is I will do my very best. If we decide that this is what we're going to do, and I said, do not feel like I would pigeonhole you into you've got to play roles with disability, with cerebral palsy. As it stands, he then came back to us too late, because we made it very clear in-house that we weren't going to take on any more actors at all. And he came back too late. And I said, look, come back to me in 6 months' time. And he hasn't. I want fat, thin, I want black, white, I want ginger, I want everything. Because when we are submitting actors, if I've got loads of brunettes, loads of blondes, loads of pretty girls, look, it's too hard. Unsolicited emails are not welcome by everybody. And partly because there are 84,000 registered actors in the UK, and there are triple the amount that aren't registered that can also find the email addresses to every casting director that work in the industry. So you imagine, you've got Shaheen Baig getting 84,000 unsolicited emails every single day. So arguably you go, well, how the hell am I meant to let them know that I'm on their radar? How do I get on their radar? So if you didn't have an agent, the way that I would do it, and it's the way that I actually sort of did do it, is follow every single casting director on Twitter and Instagram. Because a lot of them now are doing these massive call outs for actors. The only problem then is you get what I like to call stampede casting. For all of you that have seen Lion King, the stampede, that's the casting process. And I'm really sorry, but if you don't have a relationship with that casting director, you really are number 312. Your name isn't even applicable at this point. So that's one way of doing it. The other way, monologue competitions, and they have casting directors affiliated to those competitions, and it's a really good way for them to find underrepresented, untapped talent. And so if Shaheen Baig puts out a casting call and you fit the brief, get in there straight away. Personal email, hi Shaheen, I've just watched your latest project, Peaky Blinders or whatever. I would absolutely adore to be seen by you. Then I've got like a bit of a more negative response to that. It's really, really painfully difficult. And this is where the long game comes in. Because trust me, rejection after rejection after rejection can make you feel absolutely worthless. And it happens so quick. You just, all of a sudden, you just go, I'm done. I can't do it. I can't do it. I need to sustain my living by paying my rent and X, Y, and Z. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go and move back in with my mum and dad first, which is what I did all those years ago, because it's like, okay, and you've graduated, go, bang, and the firing pistol, and it's like, shit, I've got to find representation. I've got to get a job. Slow down. The right job will come at the right time. And I'm a firm believer, and I don't want to get like all hocus pocus, but What's for you will not go by you. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. It's the same as, if true love fails, then it was not true. It was just love. It wasn't true love. And it's the same with the industry. You've got to look at the industry as a relationship. You're going into a relationship with a group of people for 6 weeks, or if it's a television and film, might be one day. You go in there, you throw all of your love at them. There's one thing actually that springs to mind. Amateur. The word amateur now derives from the word amour, which is love, which is why we got involved in this industry in the first place, right? Because we love it. We love everything about it, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And when you become a professional, all you're doing is professing yourself to something. When you are a professional, a lot of the love sort of gets sidetracked because it's got to become about the business. It's got to become about, otherwise you're just doing it for the fun of it. Which I could go and play five-a-side football with my mates. I wouldn't, because I'm a fat lad, but if I was playing five-a-side football, I'm not a footballer, yeah? And so I would be doing that on an amateur level because I love it. And there's nothing wrong with loving something that you do. But when you profess to this industry, it comes with a set of problems, but that you've got to turn those problems into, oh, this is just part of it. So it's not really a problem. It's just okay, I have to do this. And that one of those is the rejection. One of those is not getting in the room. And you go, I give up. I don't know what to do. Because what you'll get is, I'm really sorry, you need 3 professional credits before we'll see you. And you go, no one will see me. So how am I meant to? And it goes round in your head a million times. I give up, I give up, I give up. And I hope if you take anything away from today, that you don't give up. Even when you are an inch away from throwing the towel in, pull back, take a breath, relax, go to bed, go have a cigarette, go have a glass of wine, go get some fresh air, and then decide, am I definitely going to quit? Because in that moment, it's just as dangerous as punching somebody in the street that's annoyed you. You wouldn't punch somebody in the street. You wouldn't just give up your dream, right? It's the same thing. You've worked at Fourth Monkey doing all this training to become an actor, to give in. What for? Why would you do that? All because in the heat of that rejection, you go, or in the heat of you can't get in the room, I'm done, I can't do it. All that hard work for nothing. There does come a point, and I want to say this to those that may eventually one day give in. You haven't failed in the mission to become an actor. It might be you're destined for other things. It might be that you utilize the skills that you've learned at Fourth Monkey to become a drama therapist or a drama teacher, just like I am. I teach acting to emerging talent in Teesside. And I tell you something, it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. Watching them grow from a little seedling, and they turn up and they haven't got a voice, and they've got no confidence. By week 12, they're calling me fat, and they're like, yeah, how's it going, Dan? You all right? And they're suddenly my best mate. That, I can die knowing that I've put my drama school training into something other than me. I've put it into somebody else. Again, I've gone a long way around it, Nim, but I just feel you will come to a point where you are so close to throwing the towel in. And I'd urge all of you, don't give up. We take anybody that is wanting to come on board. So we might have a class of 25, or we might have a class of 11. And we might put little call outs to see if people want to join us. But because we're just a part-time acting school, it's a very different process to what Steve does. But I, I can answer your question as to what I'm always looking for in an individual moving forward, as opposed to getting into the school. Individuality and passion and dedication. If you are true to yourself and you are honest, just completely honest all of the time without offending, you've got to be very careful what you say at times, but be considered rather than calculated. But if you are true to yourself and you work bloody hard, I'll work hard too. If you can't be asked to get up and do the work, neither can I. Why should I? And a great one is, I love confident people. I love people with loads of confidence. Don't like arrogance, and I don't like it when it teeters over into something other than confidence. But an actor has to know what it is that they're selling. They have to believe in what it is that they're selling, which is themselves. You are the product. If you bake and sell cakes, cake is your product. You're an actor. You're selling yourself. And so if you don't believe in you, and neither will I, and neither will anybody, because how can they? How can they believe in you if you don't? Your mum and dad will, or your nana and granddad. They'll always believe in you. But once you're in the industry and you're sat in front of the lions, if you don't have the confidence to stand there and go, hire me now, without being arrogant and without giving your truest portrait, I don't know what I've got to work with if you can't provide that. And you know what? And that doesn't necessarily, and when I say confidence, let me be very clear. It doesn't mean you're the loudest person in the room. It doesn't mean you're the one with all the answers. And I know, hand up, yeah, me, I'll go first. Sometimes it's the quiet ones, but they've learned how to harness their quietness, their stillness, their uniqueness, their weirdness. They've harnessed it and they've gone, watch this. I'm okay with what I see in the mirror. I'm okay with who I am. They're the actors that seem to be doing better than others. They're the ones that when they phone me and they talk to me on the phone about their career choices, I enjoy speaking to those people because they don't necessarily need to be spoon-fed. They already know what they want, and with the help of their agent, me in this instance, I know what I'm working towards. I'm like, yeah, and it's like we're on a level, we're speaking the same language. And when you are a practitioner, you are constantly giving your fruits to your student, and you literally have to care so much about that student, whether they care about being there or not, whether their parents have dragged them along because you will go to something that's going to make you more, whatever it is. You have got to invest everything into that student and be absolutely okay with when they break free. When they say, I'm no longer going to attend the classes, or I no longer wish to be represented by you, I want to be represented by somebody else, or whatever. You've got to almost stand there and be proud that you've given them a tiny nugget to help set them off onto their journey. You may never see that student ever again. But how nice would it be if in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time, they're collecting an award and they say, I could never have done this without the help of my tutor. And that's where the reward comes from. That's where the reward, really, for me, I get more rewards being a tutor than I do an actor. And that is the gospel truth. It's all nice and glamorous. I've got a Zoom meeting at 8 o'clock with a load of television actors that is in the Make Me Famous drama. I can't share what I'm sharing with you with those guys. I've got nothing really to offer those guys because they're already doing it. They're already established and working. And so how nice to be able to share a slice with like-minded, emerging actors. It's not about you. You should be knackered by the end of it if you're a tutor, like shattered, because you're trying to work out, did that person understand? Did that person get what I needed? I don't think they fully understand. I hate it when someone asks me a question and I haven't answered it sufficiently. It really like tickles me, because I think that's a reflection on me, not the student. And I get students come to me all the time and they say to me, "Oh, Daniel, like, you're the best tutor I've ever had, and I've done 3 years at college, and like, you're just so inspirational." And I say, "Well, that's really kind, but can I just say that's all on you? Because I've said the same shit to 25 other people, and only one person has come to tell me that I'm amazing. So who's the amazing person in this? It's certainly not me. It's you, because you listened. It's you, because you walked away with the knowledge that I was offering on a plate, and 24 other people went home and played on Xbox and didn't think twice about what I'd said in that session." It's just like, you've got to buzz off it. And I think if you're not buzzing off anything that you do in this industry, in fact, anything in this life, apart from the mundane shit you have to do when you're professing to the industry, but if you're not enjoying it and it becomes like just like a painful experience, or like a real drag to go to work, maybe you are doing the wrong thing. It's got to tickle you. Like, you've just got to be constantly like tickled by life. You know, like, that's something like deep, but you do. Otherwise, you'll blink and you'll be in your 50s going, "What did I do? Like, how quick has 12 weeks gone, or 13 weeks? Just flash." As for me, I look at my watch. I haven't got a watch. I don't know why I do that. It's such a demonstrative thing. Oh yeah, I looked at my watch. I'm such an actor. I look at my watch and it's like, oh, it's like 7 p.m. Where the hell has my day gone? And that's because I'm just constantly buzzing. I'm just constantly trying to fill my brain and my heart with things that inspire me. My little girl, just playing dollies with my little girl for an hour every morning is like, it's not just like a cute, "Oh, that's lovely, how admirable." I actually genuinely get something from that. I start to play and I get into the mind of an upcoming 4-year-old little girl who's obsessed with magic, and she thinks I'm a superhero who can make magic happen because I speak to the fairies every night before I go to bed. Like, it's magic. And this industry is so beautiful if it goes your way. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the waffle. So you're talking about skills. I'm going to go backwards here. Skills, yes, not just because you can then put it on your CV. Just because every skill that I've ever involved myself in, I used to do a lot of juggling and unicycling as a kid, and then got really obsessed with genuine like magic, like card tricks and stuff. I was a Boy Scout at one point. I did karate. I used to do ice skating. I speak fluent German. I don't know. There's loads of stuff. But let me tell you, every single group that specialized in a different skill, I was presented with a completely different demographic of people. And then all of a sudden, I realized that I wasn't the center of the universe. I was only the center of my universe. And every little group that I joined in with, every little group, I was suddenly surrounded by 20, 30 nerds. And I'm from a rough part of Teesside. There ain't many nerds in Teesside, unless you go looking, of course. And then all of a sudden you find that there are these little groups, these little pockets of amazing human beings that could teach me so much just about how they think, so that I could relate to more people as I got older. And so it's in terms of skills, you couldn't put on your CV, you could, but I wouldn't. I can juggle 3 balls, unless you can juggle them pretty good. So if you're gonna start joining groups, do it for the sake of widening your understanding of how many different people there are in the world, and their language they use, totally different. When I was 18, I was a doorman. I was a bouncer at a nightclub. That's a very different world to where I am now. I mean, like, I've bumped into an ex-doorman that I used to work with only a couple of days ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, how different I am now. Listening to classical music and drinking red wine, whereas back then it was like, yeah, let's have a pint and talk about good-looking girls, like whatever it was. So just in terms of skills, and being around different people, 100%. But don't get too bogged down with like, I don't know what my USP is, because you know, actually, your USP is that you're a little maybe unclear. Intuition is just tuition from within. Yeah. So you just send the word backwards. So intuition is tuition from within. Now you should just be constantly tutoring yourself to be the best version of yourself. And whether that be that you're going to lots of different groups to learn a new skill, like juggling or ice skating or whatever, that's part of your USP, is that you're curious about the world around you, so that you can learn how to be more adaptable to a wider demographic of people. And then the other thing I've just wrote down is, ask yourself whether you are one of the following. Are you aloof? Are you a poor me? Are you an interrogator, or are you an aggressor? Aloof, poor me, interrogator, or aggressor. And either one is absolutely fine. There is no negative. You know, for me, once you identify with, you can be all four, by the way. Let me make that clear as well. When I'm with my little girl, I'm very much aggressor and interrogator. Now, for someone that doesn't understand that, you go, what, you're aggressive to your 4-year-old? It's like, no. Aggressor just meaning that I take control of the situation so that she's safe. But I also play interrogator with her. So she'll tell me that she doesn't like something, or she'll make a statement, and then I'll just question, well, why? Why do you feel like that? Why are you upset? So I'll ask her lots of questions so that she can answer it for herself, rather than me telling her that. Now, why have I just asked you to do that? Well, if you're trying to identify what your USP is, and you're telling me you don't think you know what it is, maybe, just maybe, you're either aloof or an interrogator, someone that is constantly questioning where they stand within the realms of the world, the universe. So your unique selling point for me, let's start from the very bottom. You are an interrogator, so therefore you're an investigator. You're constantly trying to work out what the right thing. What a beautiful position to be in, because there are lots of actors out there that feel, I know who I am, absolutely 100%, this is who I am. But the problem is, they're walking around like that. And they're going, this is who I am, and I can't be moved. I'm like a statue. And that works for some, but I prefer people that don't fully know what their USP is 100%. Because it means there's wiggle room. It means there's the opportunity to become something else. But it's just good to concrete your top skills, what you are very good at, really harness them as well, but just be open-minded, like a child in a playground, not knowing which piece of equipment to play on next. You know, just go into it almost childlike. I go into a lot of things, and apart from things like this, where I'm very much the talker. If I work with a new actor, or I work with a new director or whatever, I just go in as a child. Just go in as, teach me everything you know. I never turn up on set as I know what I'm doing. I just do know what I'm doing, but I don't go in there with that knowledge. I go there a bit like, okay, what do you want? What do you need? Where do you want me? How do you want this? Because I have already done my training. I already know what I'm doing. So now it's time to play. You can't break the rules until you know the rules. So for me, you know what you're doing. You might be a little nervous at times, but now you've got it. You've got it. You know what you're doing. You don't think about walking to the studio. You just do it. You just walk. And it's the same with acting. You've done your training. Stop waiting for validation from somebody else. You've already done it. You're already the best version of yourself. Unless you know you could have worked harder, that's a separate issue. Go read an extra book just to make up for lost time. Yeah? I think your USP is there. I think it's going to be really exciting when you get to that point where you go, oh shit, that's my USP. Wow. It just might not be like absolutely evident right now, and that there's nothing wrong with that. As an agent, as an actor working with her, if we were in the same show together, I wouldn't think, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. Not at all. In fact, I'd find that quite exciting. So I'm like, oh shit, how exciting is this? We're doing this thing together. I've never worked with you before. Wow, what should we do? You know, it's a new relationship. It's like being on a first date every job you do, you know. But it is important to harness the good stuff, you know, where you go, well, actually, I'm very honest, I'm very loyal, I'm very hardworking, you know, I'm quite clever, I'm good at reading, I'm actually a really good actor. There's nothing wrong with saying you're a good actor, nothing at all. And no doubt you are all incredible. So like, and that's how the industry works. You go on merit. Steve is the key to me saying yes to taking you on without seeing your work. And so I think Steve will probably know you from his perspective. So he'd probably know your USP slightly differently to what you do.
Nice.
Yeah.
So answered that, Meg?
Yes, massively. Thank you so much.
You've got it, man. You've got it. You've definitely got it. Don't worry about writing it down. Just be it now. Just be your USP. You don't need to write this shit down. Just if it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, shake it off. People have learned, just like me, I can work from home and save £600 a month rent. And if I want to have a meeting with you, I'll go to a really funky coffee shop in the middle of town, or I'll meet you in London in a public space that I deem to be a funky whatever. But I think there is still a very large select number of people who are keen as custard to get back in face-to-face. I am definitely one of those people. I'm a people person. Some agents, some casting directors, and some producers are not people. They are business, and they are, I can't be bothered with this. Send me a video because I have got too much to do. For me to physically stand up, get changed, leave my house, have the meeting and come back, you might be looking the best part of 3 hours. A Zoom, I could be sat in my underpants and you wouldn't know. And I can host an audition freely on Zoom, and it'll take 15 minutes. So yeah, I do think there's going to be a real interesting dynamic when things ease after lockdown. And I would just say be ready for whatever they throw at you. However, online safety now is bigger than ever before. And if you are not sure whether the person that you are auditioning for is kosher or legitimate, do as much research as humanly possible, because you don't know who you're dealing with. So for example, I could say to you, I've got an audition, and you say, brilliant, so you do a Zoom with her, or you go meet her. How do you know what Shaheen Baig looks like? Same with Zoom, you know, someone, and I will tell you it's a long story, but I'll shorten it as best as I can. I had an actress come to me. She sent me her show reel, her CV, not Spotlight, but her CV. And she phoned me claiming to be an actress who I cannot name for legal reasons, claiming to be an actress. And I was like, I'll happily take you on. I then did a FaceTime situation with her, but can you see how my lighting, can you see how my hand is sort of not in shot now? She was sat against like that, and I could sort of make out who it was, but it was a bit hazy. And about and I was like, I'd love to take you on. I asked her loads of questions. I was really happy. And about 2 days later, she came clean and told me she was impersonating that actress. This is a true story. And I immediately phoned the real actor's agent to say, I just wanted to let you know that there's an actor out there impersonating one of your clients, and I've just nearly signed them. And not only that, I had to then contact the school that she said that she attended, which she didn't. My point being, there's going to be a couple of complications with this online malarkey. Face-to-face is always better for that problem to be eradicated. But then you also face the problem of you found it on Facebook, there's a thing, or your mates text you, or there's a casting going on, and you get there and you don't know who it is you're looking for, and suddenly you're in a studio with a bloke or a female, but you're in a room with a bloke you've never met before, telling you he's going to make you the next big thing or whatever, and then suddenly there's risks to both, and there's pros to both. But certainly the online stuff, just really careful. So you just need to be like really mindful of what you say, because once it's recorded, they've got it forever digitally. I feel digital is cool because it's easier, it's quicker, it's immediate, it's in my inbox, we know we're ready to go. Well, but if it's a play, slightly different. Because now in theory, I'm coming to see you really work.